I don't even know how to explain this video. Basically, literally, this is just going to be me ranting about how video games are these days. I know this is probably not really a new topic and you guys have seen this all the time, but this is really my genuine thoughts because I've been in the pit recently. I've been playing the same like 4 games for about almost a year now. A year. And that's not okay. Like, I've been playing through most of my junior year with these basic games. Well, I don't mean basic, but you know what I mean. Just games that aren't, newer, they're older, and so they're more nostalgic. And that's the power of nostalgia, unfortunately, is because it keeps you kind of stuck. But at the same time, you can't help and just stay away from it because you love the feeling you get so much from it, because you know the game is good, you know the way you're gonna play it, you know how it's gonna go, you know how to be the best at it, etc, etc. But I've been stuck on very few games. As of right now, I've only played MK11, Batman Arkham Asylum, Batman Arkham City, and Batman Arkham Knight. And even then, Arkham Knight's a little iffy. Now, why am I mentioning these games to you is because if you literally look at Arkham Asylum, that was released back in 2009. 2009! That was over a decade ago. These games are older games, and no offense to these games, because if you know me, you know I love Batman. It's everything to me, like it's to my core. R.I.P. Kevin Conroy, the voice actor. I love Christian Bale, Mark Hamill's way of being the Joker, Heath Ledger's way of being the Joker. I love Batman to death. But me saying this, I hope you guys understand that I'm coming from a place of sympathy, because I feel bad for the way games are today. Now, I like that trilogy. I like that series. I'll even include Batman Arkham Origins because I think it's a little overhated. I think even Arkham Origins deserves to be in that group. Is it a perfect game? No. But should it be the black sheep of the whole series? No. I don't think that's fair, because these people were rushed to finish this game. And most of all, what they did was they heard Rocksteady say, we did this and that. They took it and put it into Origins and did the best they could with it. I don't think it deserves all the hate. I don't think it's as bad as people say it is. I think at one point it was a little too extreme. I enjoyed it a lot when it came out. Of course, I was younger as well, but even then, if you guys know my YouTube channel, I've been playing it again, even though I've been very slowly playing it, but you guys get the point. And then look at MK11. MK11 was released back in 2019. And I know that's not a very long time from now, but think of how graphically we've advanced since then. Like a few months ago, or a year now, we got that test with the Matrix and they were using their Unreal Engine 5, I believe it was, and it was beautiful. It looked fantastic. I almost thought it was real for a second because it was so trippy how realistic it looked. But still, we have games that are bad. Now, for example, Cyberpunk came out. This one is a very popular one because if you look at it, it's really bad. I have not played this game, but from what I've heard, this one was in development for years. People were saying that this was going to be a game changer, that this was going to make a difference, that this game was going to be the definition of what a video game should be. And when it came out, it became a disappointment. Cyberpunk basically was a huge embarrassment from the glitches and lags and just the textures not loading in. Again, I didn't get to play this game personally, but just seeing the few clips I have over TikTok and YouTube clips, that's all I really needed to see. And that's why I don't have it. Of course, they always put it on discount for like $22 left and all that, but I'm not gonna buy it. So even on a discount, I will not buy it. So that should say something to you, especially because you're like, well, what's wrong with it? That's a fair price. I think that's a good price. No, it's not. Because if you've played it, you're probably nodding in the back. You're like, okay, no, that makes sense, because no one should buy a game that they feel is not good, because I don't think it's good and I don't want to risk it and I don't want to waste my own money. And then the games these days are just so boring. There's story to them. Don't get me wrong, there's definitely a story to them, but it's nothing outstanding. It's nothing new. And then the problem I have, sequels. Look at Saints Row. Look at the newest game they came out with. It was talked about for like a few days, then it wasn't talked about. You know why? Because it sucked. And then The Last of Us 2 came out. People were so excited and so hyped about it. And then Joel dies in the beginning of it. And then all of a sudden, as you're halfway through the game, you get a flashback point and then you're playing as the enemy. Basically Abby. If you guys know the game, I'm gonna say that. These games have a hard time understanding what makes a story intriguing. One successful one I can say is God of War. If you guys know, I have that game deep in my heart. That one takes a personal place for me. I have a tattoo of it on my arm. It means a lot to me. But if that game was trash and horrible, do you think I would have that same tattoo on me? No! But that's how meaningful games can be to someone like you or me, because it can be beautiful to someone. But no, games these days are not good. But a lot of people like ones like Zelda, Breath of the Wild, Tears of the Kingdom, those ones like that. And that's cool. Nintendo's doing its own thing. Like, I was really hyped for Gotham Knights. If you guys know, that's basically like, it's not really a part of the Arkham series. It's kind of its own thing. But everyone who played the Arkham series, like myself, was super excited. And then it came out. It was duty. It was so bad. It was so horrible. I wanted to cry myself to sleep. I was actually so hyped for this game. I kept holding out hope, but there was bugs, and then the mechanic wasn't just working, and I just had so many problems with it to where it wasn't functioning right. And then eventually I just gave in to the thought, it's not a good game. It's disappointing. It's not a game that I want to relive and go back to. And I wish I could say that I want to go back, but I just don't. Like, my friend and I now, we would go back and just 5 minutes in, we're bored, let's go play something else. But then after that, what games are there to play? Oh, that one that released like 7 years ago. Let's play that one. And then a lot of people liked Dying Light 2. I had a lot of problems with it personally. Like, when I was doing some sort of mechanic where I had to jump or get on a ledge, it would never work out for me. And the game was just really weird about it. And one of the things I didn't like about the story in itself is that you had this moment of becoming like mutated, and then once you beat the story, it pretty much never happens again. So it's like, okay, so you're just gonna show that to not, like, I don't know, tease the idea of us having it. Like, in the original, Dying Light was really good. It was a really good story. It was really fun. It's cool because you travel to a whole nother area just like you do in Dying Light 2. But Dying Light 1 does it better for me personally. Don't get me wrong, that's not to say Dying Light 2 doesn't look very pretty and very beautiful. I think it does. I think it really describes what a deserted place looks like, especially a post-apocalyptic world. But it doesn't stick to me. It doesn't stick to me like a game from a long time ago would. For example, we're gonna go so far back that we're gonna talk about Little Big Planet. Does anyone remember that? You know, where you played as Sackboy, the little guy who looks like a toy. I actually had one toy version of Sackboy himself, and it was really cool. It was really cute. I really liked that game too, because it was kind of like inspiring creativity, because I remember back then going to levels that other people created, and I remember Jeff the Killer was one. I don't know if that was popular amongst people, but that was one I definitely remember going to. But that was fun, and that was a child's game, and I enjoyed myself a lot more than these games that are meant for, you know, older people that are, you know, teens and up. And then there's the games that trend and die off very quickly. Now, one example of this, I hate to say it, Among Us. I even did one video on it one time, and then I took it down because I don't like Among Us. And people did at one point. It was really fun, sure. A lot of people were getting a lot of views on it, and then it died. That's how a lot of streamers, as we know today, got a lot of their publicity, got a lot of their, you know, attention. Another one is Fall Guys, but Fall Guys, I think, had it worse. I think it had a lot more potential. I think it looked more fun, but it died off way quicker than Among Us, because Among Us had a lot more potential, I think, but it was very limiting. People were gonna sense how repetitive it became, and then just, you know, they wanted something new. But even then, there's games like Five Nights at Freddy's. That game is really repetitive, but even after all these years, it's still fun. People still go back and visit and play them, because there's always some sort of outcome that could be different or the same, but that really varies on how you play it. You know, maybe you'll survive the night, or maybe you'll just die. You never know until you try it. But also then there's Security Breach, where you're literally free roaming around in this like play area. That's called expanding and growing your story and letting it mature with your audience. Because people like myself were like, I don't even know, like 10 years old when it came out, and now I'm 18, and they realized that there's gotta be some type of change, some type of difference, and that's what's happening now. And then there are games that are just really clinging on to getting that popularity again. Maybe some of you already know the one I'm talking about, but if you don't, I'm talking about the game Fortnite. Now, just saying that word makes me cringe. I don't like Fortnite, and I'm not ashamed to say I did spend some money on it to get the skins and stuff, but that was really the only cool part about it. And then creative, and then some of the stuff they had for cameos for movie related things, or superhero or supervillain related stuff. But at one point, they would just take it out, and then I would be bored of the game again because it was all the same. It was either too easy to win, or it was just impossible because people have no lives, have never touched grass, and just play this game all day. What kind of game like that keeps someone interested? Just because you do new seasons and a new battle pass, that's not gonna help it. Speaking of, I think the battle pass thing is stupid. Ever since Fortnite came out with it, Apex Legends was also one big game that came out with it too. Suicide Squad that hasn't come out yet but was delayed is gonna have one too apparently. But I'm very worried about it because this is the last time Kevin Conroy actually voiced Batman before his passing, and I don't want his legacy, well, it's not going to be his legacy, but I don't want his final Batman to be in a game that was trash, because think of the run he's had with the games of Arkham Asylum, City, and Night. Those were fantastic games. Sure, they had their own errors and their own cons, but they were still fantastic games nonetheless. But Suicide Squad, as I just told you, Gotham Knights was a big disaster, so how are we going to feel about Suicide Squad? That's what I'm worried about. And then they delayed it, which is okay. I'm not too worried about it, but I'm like, it's so honed in to the game that if they really wanted to fix it, they would have to basically take out chunks of the game before even thinking of redoing it properly. And then probably I'd say the biggest thing about this is Call of Duty being the biggest example of games falling off. See, as people know, Call of Duty has had this history now of games that are easy grab, easy money, pay to win, etc, etc. Get some cool gadgets, that's it. With Vanguard, Modern Warfare 2, Cold War, all those games. But if you look more down the line of the games that released, you'll see games like Call of Duty Black Ops 3, Modern Warfare, the one that released more recently, and the one that was released a long time ago, Modern Warfare 2. Like, they had a point of where they were making good games. There was nothing inspiring about the games anymore. Like, why did they lose that? Was it because it was an easy money grab? Was it because of the games growing up to be something else? Was it because of the gaming community changing up its ways? What was it? I do not know. I've been a gamer for all my life, and I can't really say much as for everyone else, but what I can say personally, we don't always need a game every year. Just give us a good game that will stand for time. That's really it. Like, there are games that have longevity, and I think that's really important. Like, of course, a lot of people don't like games like MK11, but I really like it. I think it has its things. I think MK9 is also really fantastic, and MKX, but they weren't as terrible games like Cyberpunk and the other ones I listed earlier. So I don't really know the downfall or how it's going to turn out for these games, but I'm really hoping that there's a wake-up call to the gaming community. They try to be relatable, they try to make it different, try to define the normal, and that's fine. But if you can't do it the right way or do it in a way that you feel satisfied with, then I don't think you should try being unique, because if the game in itself is something you're inspired by and something that you really hone in on, then I think that's unique enough. Because all I can say is a game is a game if you enjoy it and take your time on it, and if you really make something that you care about. But recently, these games aren't video games. They're just money grabs. They're just easy to win, pay to win, get cool gadgets, and that's it. None of these games and stories are motivating or something I want to be intrigued in. Like, most of the time when I get on my Xbox or PlayStation or PC, I just sit down and I go on my phone because I'm like, I don't even know what to play. And I'm just thinking, and then I'm like, I don't know what to do. And then most of the games are multiplayer. While that's a good thing, it's also a bad thing. But they try to interpret multiplayer as good, so any game with multiplayer these days should be a good game, right? That's not all the time, because there are standalone games that can be good, like Assassin's Creed, Batman Arkham, Five Nights at Freddy's, Grand Theft Auto storyline, some Call of Duty story, man, even Zelda, and that's Zelda. No diss towards Nintendo, I'm just saying that just to make a point. But we don't always need everything to make a game everything, if that makes sense. We don't want you to put like every little thing inside of the box that would be the game, because the game loses value if you try to input things you think are gonna make it like rich, what's gonna make it well, what's gonna make it succeed. Really, the game only succeeds if it's special. And there's no special game if all you want is the money that you would get from it and the benefits. People aren't stupid. People have been making these complaints for years now. And while it was probably not as bad as now, it's still terrible now. Like, right now we're in the pit. It's like ever since COVID, games are just terrible. That would have been the most perfect time to make better games, because people are then developing things, and then people are going to be at home to try them out and wouldn't have to be like, oh, I don't have time. But instead, they wasted time on things that no one cares about. And I think that's why games are bad, because you don't value the games. And if you don't value the game you're making and you just say you do in press conference, then that game isn't of value to anyone else but yourself. Maybe it's not even that special to you either. And I think the worst part is that people that make the games know it's not good, but they release it anyways because of deadlines and such. And I think that's what's very disappointing, because these developers are probably gamers too. A lot of the time when I see interviews behind like people that make games are always like, well, you know, when I started playing like Mega Man, Street Fighter, and all these other classic games, that's when I was inspired to make games myself. And that's what sucks, because these aren't just random people making these games. They're us. They're us as people that if we could make games, we would. That's who they are. And I wish that there was just a way we could solve that situation, but right now I don't see that. But that's all I have to say. I'm signing off.